Wednesday. Thank you all for taking some time to join us for the Post-Deposition Playbook featuring Joe Stevens as today's panelist. My name is Tara and I am your host. I'm here to support you all throughout this webinar, and I just want to quickly touch on a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. On the right side of your screen, you should see the big chat panel. I encourage you to submit any questions or comments in that panel as we move along. It's a great way to interact with your peers as well. We have polls to participate in and resources to share with you that will show up in their tabs within that panel. So feel free to get familiar, type in the chat where you're joining us from today. If you do submit any questions into the chat, we'll be happy to address those in our live Q&A closer to the end of the hour. If you experience any audio or visual disruptions, you can also feel free to let me know. I can help you troubleshoot. Lastly, this webinar will be recorded for viewing later on, and a copy of the recording and slide deck will be sent to you by email, and the slides are also going to be available to you in the handouts tab of the chat panel on the right side. With that out of the way, I'm very excited to pass the mic over to Joe to get us started.
Thank you, Tara. I really appreciate it. It's nice, as always, to be back with everyone. We're kind of back in a similar space. We're talking about AI. This time it's going to be timed a little bit differently. We're sort of in the post-deposition AI engagement moment. And I'm really excited to actually get in and show you some real life examples of how to maximize the post-deposition use of AI and how it can benefit your case, how it can benefit your workflow, right? How it can sort of really change and positively affect what it is now you can do with the information that you just got from the deposition that was just taken. So we'll talk more specifically. We'll ground that a little bit more here in a second. Tara said a couple of things that I really agree with. And if history has shown them to be true, which get lively in the chat. I kind of got a couple screens going on here, so I'm pivoting around, trying to monitor that. And we've got some moderators in the chat who are going to flag the questions that you asked, so we'll get to them. The second piece of that is that the real rich side of this presentation and these presentations tend to come from the live demo and then the questions that come as a result. So don't be hesitant with your questions. Let's really try and use this hour so that when you get done with this webinar, you have 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe even more really solid action items, things that you now know you can do that will save you time, generate better results, and really make it so that you can do more with the same information that you probably are used to sort of having and then having to digest a lot. This is just much more efficient way of doing it with the AI. So let me go into this presentation. My name is Joe. Some of you are probably returning. I've seen you before in other webinars, and it's nice to have you back. I work with Steno. I'm a lawyer, practicing attorney. I was actually in court this morning. I'll be back in court tomorrow morning. And so where I'm coming from with this is actually grounded in a practice, which matters to me because that means that everything that we're about to do over the next hour or so is not theoretical, right? This is not just sort of an abstract, maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. These are real things that you can do, and it's coming from a place, for me, of practice. I also teach at the law school at Texas Tech. I've seen some Texas folks in here. I've seen Houston and Austin. I wonder if we've got any West Texas folks or Texas Tech folks in the crowd. If so, a little shout out to Lubbock, Texas. But I also teach students, right? And so the teaching of students now is really fascinating because we're teaching, and AI is really affecting just the education flow of how people are learning. And what that means is that this skill set that we're going to dive into here over the next little bit is really applicable, right? It's the way that future lawyers are kind of being taught. It's the way that people are bringing new skills into an industry that we've known for a while now has sort of just been nice and steady, but AI is affecting the legal sector just as much as it is anywhere else, maybe, if not more so. Okay, we all know that to be true. It's a lot of setup. This is what I want to accomplish over the next hour, this and some more, right? What we're going to do is we are putting ourselves in the life cycle of a case right now where we're obviously in deposition time. And so now what we're basically considering these depositions to be are gold mines of information, right? Now you have information to work with. What do you do with it? How do you find it? How do you digest it? How do you analyze it? How do you turn it into meaningful strategy? Are there ways that you can approach different settlement conversations now? How can you assess the performance of in a deposition? How can you extract meaningful data, the big key takeaways from the time that you spent deposing someone? And what about multiple depositions, right? What happens now if you're farther along that process? I was talking about this yesterday with a client who has hundreds of depositions, and the beginning point is sort of like, we know that there's information in there. How do we find it? How do we use our time well enough and efficiently enough to track down the information and make it actionable? That's where we are here. That's the setup to the webinar here. And then making sure that what you can do, you can deploy that information effectively. What other pleadings? Are you changing your complaint? Are you needing additional discovery? Do you have other witnesses now to depose? These are the leading questions that I think we can sort of tackle over the next however many minutes together. And I also want to sort of suggest that there's even more to do with AI as well, right? We can talk about like one deposition, we can talk about multiple depositions, but what we also can really do is talk about other filings, other pleadings that go along with the depositions. How does the testimony that lives in a deposition stack up against the allegations in a complaint? All of these things we're going to talk about, and I'm actually going to show you how to accomplish here. So let's start with a quick poll. And this is a poll that I find to be very interesting because I've been speaking about AI now for a while across the country to different audiences. And it sounds like a very basic question, right? Like, are you using it? Because maybe a year ago, people were the question was, are you even aware of the role that it can play in your practice? Now the question is, we all know that it's there. We all know that it's affecting our industry. What now can we do with it, right? Are you using it? Does your firm have a policy about using AI? Are you encouraged to use AI if you're not a decision maker about the legal tech inside your firm? Are you discouraged? Is there a sense of fear around it? Is there this sense that people are, we're going to do things the way that we've always done them? The answers to this are really, really, really interesting to me, but no matter what the answers are, a truth that I think is really real is that if you are not using it, if you're not conversational about, if you don't know how to use it, chances are that, down the road, we're going to be losing business to someone who is using it. It does not mean that it has to occupy 100% of your time or inject itself into every area of your workflow, but there's some real light entry points where you can deploy AI meaningfully that will save you time and allow you to sort of free up space to do things brilliantly. So I'm going to look at the answers here. I'm really interested. So yeah, it's fascinating to see these results change over time. More and more people are using it daily. Sometimes, obviously, we've got the more specialized tools that are occasionally injecting themselves into the workflow, but that's about a 50-50 split. And then we have concerns and the never crowd, which I totally understand. That crowd seems to be shrinking a little bit, I will say, especially as AI gets more and more and more common throughout the life cycle of a case. So let me set the table for what I'm about to show you. AI, I want to just kind of describe AI very briefly. It presents very masterfully as though it thinks like a human, right? It gives you answers. It apologizes when you call it out. It praises you when it thinks you've done something brilliant. It has a tendency to actually do that in an interesting way. It gives you answers that are so familiar with the way that we speak that it's really easy to get lulled into the sense that this product, this tool, is occupying sort of the similar wavelength intellectually as you or I. That's not the case, right? AI is pattern recognition. It's just massive and massive amounts of information inside a system, so much so that it can discern patterns and understand predictability and like how things relate to each other. That's the power of AI trained up to a fixed point in time, which means it's important to know that because that means that you can really get a general sense of what AI is good at and what it's bad at. It's good at doing things like data extraction. It's good at doing things like information analysis. When you give it a transcript, when you give it a, ask it a question that has sort of a real general set, like what does someone mean when they say this? It'll understand that a lot more readily than it's going to understand recent events, like cutting edge recent case law is the best example in our practice. If you're using ChatGPT to do case law research, you're not using the right tool for the right end. I say all of that because what I'm about to show you and the way that we're going to actually dive into this is through a tool that we have here called Transcript Genius. Transcript Genius is our very specialized product. It's not a generalist tool. ChatGPT is. CoCounsel is more of a generalist tool, right? These products that you might be more familiar with, or you might have an awareness, or you use, that can do a number of things well. That can be great assistance. Transcript Genius and its benefit, and products sort of that are similar in the sense that they do one thing and they do it very well. Those to me are where you get the maximum returns because they're laser focused on delivering results in one key area, one or two key areas. And so if we return to the setup for this webinar, it's okay, we have a transcript. Like this is a thing now that is full of information. What is the right AI tool to use to dive into that transcript and actually start seeking out and sifting through information, whatever that might be, even if we don't know what's in there, right? So the specialized tools matter, and that's what we're going to show you here with Transcript Genius. Let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen right here, and I'm going to pivot into a different screen share. All right, here we go. I think everyone can see this now. Fantastic. Let me just get my sort of screens all situated here so that I can work. Amazing. Okay. So before I jump into this, I'm always curious about what's going on in the chat. If anyone has any questions yet. Okay. This is kind of like the thing that everyone's sort of waiting for, I hope. For those of you that might have familiarity with Transcript Genius or have used it before, or have seen it before, welcome back. It's always getting better. It's because it's being built and continually built and sort of updated and refined based on the most recent sort of things that AI is doing. This is powered by Anthropic, which is really wonderful at legal nuance and a little bit more analytical. And as Anthropic and its different AI models update, Transcript Genius also sort of is built on the shoulders of that. So it can deploy and can get stronger and more robust, which is just where AI is week after week after week, just stronger and more thoughtful. So what you're seeing right here, Steno is a court reporting company, and what you're looking at right now is basically an unfiltered list of all of the most recent cases that have automatically arrived in the optimal form for AI to engage with, okay? That's because you've booked the job through Steno. This is just part of the technology around what Steno does. If you didn't have, let's say you had a transcript from a third party, you could also upload it here. So the AI that you're about to see is AI that can apply to Steno transcripts in a sort of a more frictionless way, or you can upload your own. I want to make sure that everyone sees this, though, before we get going. Legal practitioners are, every single guideline that we're getting from the state bars around the country are that when you're using AI, before you use AI, you got to make sure that it's secure. And what that means is you've got to make sure that the AI that you're using is not going to take the data that you put into it and get smarter on the back of that potentially sensitive client information. If you're using a free account with ChatGPT, for example, and you're putting sensitive information into it, then it is arguable that those ethical obligations that we have to our clients are being compromised. So you've got to make sure that the AI you're using actually satisfies and adheres to those ethical obligations that we have. I bring you here first because I do think it's really important as this technology continues to evolve that everyone knows how secure this particular product is and how easy it should be to vet other products for their security, right? In this case, you're seeing a whole host of heightened compliances, different controls that are monitored by a third party, time and again, like very, very, very routinely. It's just kept up to speed. The whole point of this is when you go to now, you can go back to this product and you can use it with ease, right? Knowing that the ethical obligations we have to our clients are not compromised by virtue of it being an insecure AI tool. Transcript Genius is the opposite, very secure. And now you can kind of see with all of these unfiltered sort of transcripts that you have, the first thing becomes, okay, how am I going to find the transcript that I want to actually engage with? The easiest way that I find in this case is by case, right? I mean, let's say we've got a case that now has 4 transcripts, 4 depositions have been taken. We've got 4 transcripts associated with them. We can go in here and we can actually now begin to engage with them. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to start small. I kind of want you guys to think of this as slowly scaling up over the course of the next little bit, the functionality of how to engage with AI. So let's say you have one transcript that you're interested in engaging with. I'm going to pick one at random here, and I'm going to click interrogate. And you're seeing it opens another window with the transcript on the right side and 5 sort of general questions on the left, along with a free form box that you can put any question that you want in. So you can really customize the way you engage with the transcript. Seeing the transcript on the right side matters, and I'm going to talk you through that here in a second. Let's say the first thing that you want to do after your deposition is actually just kind of do some sort of data extraction. I just want to do some information recall, like what took place in this deposition. And in that case, I'm just going to use one of these pre-populated prompts, which is asking the product to generate a full-length summary with page and line numbers, okay? You're going to see over here, there's different formats to view the citations. I'm going to change it for purposes of this one. And you're seeing that it's going to be churning out, spending the next however many seconds, churning out a really thorough narrative response regarding what is in this transcript. Maybe you have intimate familiarity with this transcript because this deposition was the deposition that you took personally. Maybe you received an assignment from someone that says, you know, figure out what's going on in here, or gives you a specific assignment, but the first thing you need to do is get up to speed with what actually took place in the deposition. This is a really wonderful time saver, right? I mean, I've just asked it to generate a summary and the page and line numbers, and you're going to see it's still going. I used to do appeals and do a lot of post-conviction work in an earlier life. And the first job that I always had was basically, here is a banker's box full of trial transcripts or hearing transcripts or motions, or it was the case file. And it's basically like, okay, what is in here before we can make decisions about what to do? And there's a fly in here, which is not what I was expecting. This is allowing you to actually do that summary rapidly. This would take me a day to read a couple hundred pages and then map it out thoughtfully and actually make sure and make it actionable, right? So that I could then come back to the information that I put in the summary. Take a look at this though. Next to every single statement of fact, you're going to see a hyperlinked citation to a page and line number so that you can very quickly verify the output. Security of the product is sort of one huge guidepost that every single state bar is telling us that we need to actually follow, right? We've got to make sure that the product is secure for client confidentiality reasons. The second thing is the AI allowing you to verify whether or not it's telling you correct information? That's where we see people get in trouble, right? They just assume that the output is correct. They put it in a file, they pleading somewhere. It winds up in front of a judge. That judge then turns around and basically says, why don't you, we have a show cause hearing. Tell me why I shouldn't sanction you because you just presented a lot of misinformation to the court. Transcript Genius is built thoughtfully with the idea that when it tells you that this witness is married to Ray Abernathy with their wedding date being September 13th, 2014, you can, in the same screen, very quickly verify that that information is true and correct. And you see that throughout this entire narrative summary. Okay? Now, I'm going to do this as we keep going because this is going to show you, again, we're talking about taking information and making it actionable. And that's part of making this information actionable is saying, okay, now we've got the summary itself. Let's assume we've gone through and we've vetted it. It looks good. You're going to copy that and you're going to put it in whatever document that you want. And you can see that along with that export, you take all the citations with you so that those stay with the information, easily searchable. Now you've got a summary, and we're going to slowly just ramp up the build of whatever it is that we need information-wise from this transcript. For those of you that know already that how to run summaries through AI, fantastic, right? Keep hanging around though, because I want you to see how like we are scratching the surface of what we can do with AI and a deposition. Let's take it up a notch. Okay, maybe the summary matters. Maybe you're really happy with this. This is all you need. But maybe you actually don't really need much. The background information doesn't really matter as much to you. The thing that you know you want to focus on actually is the incident itself. I don't know. I mean, and again, this is subject matter party agnostic. If your defense, great. I do a lot of defense work. If your plaintiff side, great. It doesn't matter. It's not built with one sort of side in mind. You can take the information here, and let's say now you really, really, really want to focus just on the accident itself. I'm going to say go into much more detail about the accident. Also, generate a timeline of events and table format. So now I've taken the whole, obviously the start to finish summary, and I've said, great, you've given that to me. Let's get more specific. And I'm getting it more and more specific. I want the analysis now to focus exclusively on the incident itself. And so now, because it's laser focused on that, it's going to go into a little bit more detail. It used to be when I was creating summaries by myself, and probably some of you all still do this, the expected flow was sort of like page line, and from page 3, line 6 to 18, witness talks about background. Page 3, line 18 to page 4, line 17, educational experience, whatever it might be. Then you kind of go through it that way. It's chronological. What happens with AI is it defaults to narrative because it's trying to tell you that story. But what Transcript Genius does and what AI can allow you to do is custom build the summary the way that you want. So now we've got the general summary, now we've got the detailed analysis, and we've also got a timeline of events in a totally different format because the timeline is a little bit more readable in that format, along with the page and line summary. Here's another thing that I love, especially with the way that AI is evolving. I didn't ask it for this. I didn't say, talk to me also about critical mechanical failure pattern. But because I'm sort of asking it for summary, I'm drilling into now the incident itself. AI is getting much smarter and better when it comes to, okay, if it's true that you asked this question, maybe it's also true that I should provide this information. Not as the core answer, but maybe as just another piece for you to consider. Because now as me reading that, I look at that and I could say, oh, okay, actually go into a lot of detail about the failure pattern. What do you mean by this? What role should this play? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we'll kind of come back to that. I'm going to go back into my document. I'm not going to do this every time, but I just want to show you how over the span of the last 3 minutes, we've built a 10-page document that has meaningful data that came from a deposition. This would have taken me a full day to do in my prior life, right? I've got a couple of other prompts that I've really been tinkering with. And some of the things that I like to do actually during a product demo or like engaging with AI is just run them for the first time, just to sort of see how they hit. So take a look at this one. Well, that's not what I wanted to do at all. I've got one here that I built and it says, you're going to see this. This is maybe in the case where you're needing to summarize this, prepare a deposition summary memo. I could drop into a post-depo debrief, headline findings, useful quotes, and next steps. So this is now like, okay, maybe my audience is someone else. Maybe my audience is, another person at the law firm. Maybe I need to provide a summary to an insurance carrier who is potentially monitoring a case. You can now get into AI and say, look, create the summary, do it this way, focus on this incident, and, this is my audience. And you can see that the output is also different. I can copy and paste all of this very easily into a memo. You're seeing it just kind of roll through a meaningful answer. Again, easy to site check the source information and go from there. So all of this, again, over the last however many minutes with a single deposition, and you can see the limit now becomes, how do you want to use this? How do you want to use this as a trial partner and as a thought partner? How do you want to invite it into your space? I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to go back to the same case because I want to now sort of ramp up the functionality of this. Before I do, I'm going to quickly kind of dive into the chat because I want to see if people have questions. There is a question from Sally. Did you say you can enter any transcript in Transcript Genius? Does it matter if you did the transcript or not? Okay, well, that's a well-timed question, Sally. I'm going to answer this question live. I did say that. I said that what you saw at the original right here in the sort of unfiltered list are all of the transcripts that have automatically been delivered here because you booked them through Steno. And again, they're already formatted perfectly so that the AI can engage with it, and you don't have to sort of even think twice about that. However, in your question, Sally, you're asking about other sort of third-party transcripts. This is the spot to do that, right? You go over here and you can upload transcripts. You can see that you can take them in text or PDF format. I'll show you PDFs here in a second. You select the files from your computer, however many there may be, upload them one at a time, bulk upload them, whatever you want to do. Then you can apply them, put a little background information. Here's one, for example. It'll automatically sort of pick the case that extract the information about the case, that it's associated with, or you can create a new case, or you can assign it to an existing case, assign an attorney, whatever the date of the deposition, the witness, all that information. And then it's good to go. And you can use the same technology I was just showing you on those transcripts. So hopefully that answers your question. Cool. I'm going to get back. I'm going to filter this again. We're going to go back to the same case because I want to show you something else. That was one transcript that I just showed you. Again, now we're still not like we've got, now let's say we've taken multiple depositions. We're in this multiple deposition phase. I'm going to pick 3 of these transcripts now associated with the same case. This to me is really where the magic sort of begins to happen, because what you saw happen in the last interrogation was a couple of 100 pages of transcript being digested in real time for specific information, summaries, timelines, etc. What I'm asking for here is 3 times the amount of transcript to be digested, and you're seeing in real time. What I've asked it to do is not kind of just do an assessment of like hard data. Like, I'm not looking for timelines here, although I could. I'm not looking for a summary here, again, although I could. I'm asking it to sort of drill into something a little bit more nuanced. I'm going to tinker with the citation format again here. And what I'm asking it to do, obviously, here is witness contradictions. And we all know like that how important that can be or could be to a case. And so now it's assessing not for when a witness testified about the specific moment in time and then what happened at that moment in time, just basic sort of like data analysis. This is a little softer skill, right? Like this is, is it a contradiction? Is it an inconsistency? Is that inconsistency because this witness might have had access to information that this witness might not have? So it's sort of now really doing some assessment for me as the attorney in this case, looking at the credibility, like how many stories exist. If one is true, then obviously is the other true? Or like, how do I challenge these witnesses? If they're my witnesses, how can I get out in front of their witness? Let's say identify any and all areas where I can challenge these witnesses and their credibility at trial. I represent plaintiff. Again, while it's answering that question, let's talk about just prompt writing in general. Sometimes people are like, how do I even know what question to ask it? How do I figure out what question to ask it? What I would encourage is to just pretend that you have a human in your office and you're giving an assignment to that person. Be clear, right? We're getting ready for trial. I really want a list of every single instance that you can identify where these witnesses contradicted each other. Tell me why those contradictions might matter. Group them by category. Put them, give me a list of questions that you think I can then ask these witnesses. Whatever the assignment is that you would give a human being, give the AI that same assignment. And here you're saying, it's like you're seeing, it's still sort of writing the answer, but it's automatically, even though I didn't ask it, giving you the output, and it's saying, okay, down the road, this is your witness who might be like actually your key target because of how all over the place they were testimony wise, or the memory issues or the inconsistencies that they had. Here's a strong witness from the plaintiff's point of view. It's also given me randomly now different key trial themes. So when we talked about post-deposition making things actionable, this is already getting in the frame of mind of, okay, how can we like move down the road with these witnesses? What is our approach going to be with these witnesses? Are there going to be trial themes? Here's a recommended cross-examination approach. I didn't ask it to do any of that. It's already doing that though. And if I wanted more detail on any of these fronts, I could just ask it to drill in further and further. Amazing. More questions. Let me see if I can, let me jump into these and see. Let's see. Cynthia, I'm going to answer this question live. You mentioned trial transcripts. Can we also upload trial transcripts or hearing transcripts as well? Absolutely. I know that the flow of a deposition is different than a trial, although, obviously lawyers and judges involved, and maybe there's multiple witnesses, et cetera, et cetera. Go with your trial transcript as well. This handles it all, right? It's built for transcripts. So yes, great use. Also during trial, if you get a rough, put it in Transcript Genius, and you'll be able to sort of do a recap of what's going on and figure out what questions to ask, or, et cetera, et cetera. So you can really leverage it even in the middle of trial pretty powerfully too. So I finished answering that one. And then Khalil, have you used a prompt outlining your strategy during the deposition and requested a breakdown highlight of good and bad facts stated in the transcript? Amazing. Khalil, actually, I'm going to say I'm finished answering that question, but let's do that in real time, right? I'm going to take actually the exact words that you used, and let's go back and pick a single witness and ask it that exact question. I'm going to randomly pick a transcript, and I'm going to give it I represent plaintiff. I'm just going to pick plaintiff again. And then I'm going to use your language. Please give me a breakdown, highlight of good, bad facts stated in the transcript. I'm going to encourage it to be thorough and include any and all detail you think you consider relevant. Khalil, that's a great question. I mean, this is an excellent use case. This is actually probably like optimal way to engage with Transcript Genius. Now, maybe I wanted it from opposing counsel point of view. Maybe I want to just see, okay, now put yourself in defense counsel's shoes. Answer the question the same way. How could I anticipate defense counsel, questioning this witness at trial? What are some good answers that I could give so that we can coach the witness? We can like mock this witness in front of a jury before trial. Like we can prep the witness, whatever it might be. And you're seeing, again, now it's doing the bad fact. So Khalil, great question. It's a perfect use case for it. And yeah, I think you hit something nicely there. Okay, well, I'm going to let this one finish answering because I want you to see actually how thorough it is. Neutral. Also, by the way, when we're talking about prompts, you can also use it to give you information, to help you. I represent defense. I don't know what I am looking for in this transcript. What appear to be the key issues I need to be aware of? I mean, that is as broad and as sort of like indirect of a question because you just don't even know what you're looking for. But you can use it to sort of like provide the information for you. And now you can sort of sit there and say, oh, okay, so there's this issue, the complete failure to train, that's going to matter to me. And now you can give it a prompt specifically tailored to that one issue as well. So when you don't know what question to ask, you can use it to help you find the right one or a good one that'll lead you to another line of questioning. You know, I mean, it's given me defense considerations, corporate responsibility, damages and harm to plaintiff, all of these things. So at least now I have more information than I did before. It's given me that answer in 15 seconds and I can go about my business. Okay, this is where I kind of want to ramp it up a little bit because, and I'm going to I'm going to filter out and I'm going to pick a different case this time. And I want to show you that this case obviously we're farther along the process at this point. I've decided to actually upload and include the complaints here. So it's not just the transcript. So I'm going to pick the complaints. I'm going to pick, let's say, the actual lone eyewitness in this case. And let's pick an expert. I'm going to interrogate all three of these. So what we're asking now, you're going to see, obviously, this is a transcript, but here's the actual complaint itself. So you can see this is obviously like this is a PDF. The other one were text files. This is just a standard complaint. But now the questions that I get to ask it are going to be pivoting around. Let me go over to some good questions that I love to use on this front. Let's start with the plaintiff side. I'm going to pick this one because I love this one on the plaintiff side. Compare what the complaint alleges with what the witnesses actually testified to. Where does the testimony provide stronger evidence than what we initially pled? So now, obviously, the anchor of this answer is not only around the substance of the two depositions, but the key like allegations that live within the complaint itself. This to me is just where, you know, you think of where we were just 10 minutes ago with a single transcript and doing a summary. Fantastic use case there. This is maximizing the power of what AI can do for you. It's taking this pleading. Maybe there's a motion for summary judgment. Maybe whatever other context you might want to give it. And now it's mapping the areas of the complaint against the testimony of these witnesses. So in this area, let's just pick one. In this instance, one of the complaints that was alleged was a failure to provide adequate training and supervision. The testimony revealed much worse. Here is where, and then obviously it goes in and you can actually check and validate where it's pulling that information from. So now you have actionable information after your deposition because the complaint obviously has already been filed. Now you have the deposition and now you can compare these two really critical documents together. I mean, it's huge. Let's do this one from a defense point of view. And then there's a really great one that I want to show you that's more neutral. Identify every allegation in the complaint that no witness has been able to substantiate with firsthand knowledge. You know, again, even if you're plaintiff's counsel, you would want to know the answer to this question. And it's giving you a lot of these, you know, it's churning out the answer. Which now let's say I was like, oh, amazing. Now come up with a line of questioning for the relevant witnesses on these key points that I can use at trial or subsequently in whatever setting it might be to challenge the plaintiff's, you know, the case in chief here, whatever you might want to, however you want to phrase it. But you're seeing here that it's identified 12 areas where there's no direct, and then now it's going onto a list, even though I didn't ask it, for giving me basically a whole list of allegations with only partial support. So again, this is just where things ramp up one more notch. I'm going to do another one here. This is a great one because this is a combination of, this basically is a little bit more party agnostic, but now I've asked it to actually create a chart for me where it's going to go through the complaint allegation by allegation. And next to each allegation, it's going to show me supporting testimony, contradicting testimony, and if there's any gaps. which is amazing, right? I mean, again, I just thinking of the amount of time and work and energy that used to go into answering these questions, uh, and the assignment, like this would take me forever, and it is not taking me forever now. Very easy as before. I'm going to let it answer, like to take this, any and all information, and let's just put this in this document too. Well, let's take the one above it and put it in the document as well. And I guess I'm really just showing you this because I want you to see that we're now building this document full of meaningful information. And you can see how quickly it can just become full of actionable data, and whatever might be most beneficial. And you can do this in the span of an afternoon across multiple depositions. Here's my table with the witness testimony, the gaps in evidence. This is really interesting. Like, it's so many places where there's just absolutely no testimony that support the complaints across these two depositions, that are the allegations in the complaint. So I'm going to take this, let's put it in here as well. And again, we're just slowly building this document. Okay. I have other examples, but I'm going to kind of quickly pause and take some of the questions. This is usually when people start popping off with questions, and I love it. Jessica, is this secure enough to load medical records into? Two answers to that question. I'm going back to the security page. And what you're going to see here is that we actually have a HIPAA compliance associated with this. So the answer is yes. The second question becomes, how good is AI at digesting medical records? And then the answer to that becomes, it depends on the quality of the records themselves. As you could see, Transcript Genius, obviously it was built for transcripts, but it can handle other documents as well. If you have a PDF that is sort of searchable and readable, you should put it in there and give it a shot. It's secure enough to handle it. The issue becomes, obviously, these documents are different when it comes to citation. Like, the complaint looks different format-wise and citation-wise than a deposition does. And so your medical records are going to be the same. So the citations might just bring you to the specific page rather than a specific line. But I would encourage you, it's definitely secure enough to do it. There's nothing stopping you from uploading it and giving it a shot. So I like that question. Jessica, by the way, if that didn't answer your question or you have a follow-up, just jump back in and I will make sure to answer it. Can you prompt it to create RFPs? Or say, yep, if you give it the topics. Ben, amazing question. Yes. I'm just going to be very general. I'm going to say, based off these depositions, create supplemental requests for production. I mean, in a way, that's a terrible prompt because I didn't give it more context, like, what I'm looking for, focus on but it's going to actually understand exactly what I am talking about. And so to your question, yeah, can absolutely do that. It's great with motions practice. I need to, again, it's going to give you actually all the citations in here where it's finding the information that are going to be relevant to your motion. But be as specific as you can, give it the guidance that you can, tell it to focus on what you want. And as you can see, it's actually already putting it in a format that would be nice and easy to copy and paste into a motion itself. And it's still going. So yeah, use it with your motions practice. Motions in Limine are great. You can absolutely deploy it that way. Again, Ben, if that doesn't answer your question, although I hopefully this does, because it just sort of directly spat out a relative and still going on this front, but let me know. Oh, Jessica asked another great question. Is there a data bank or a list of sample questions or prompts that expand wider than what standards AI suggests when you had load a transcript that can be downloaded? Absolutely. Tarek and Dio, or people who are on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think people are going to get a prompt guide. We have a couple of them actually that we just kind of continue to change and update over time. So you will leave here with something, I think, either emailed to you or downloadable at the end of this. Tara's going to talk about that at the end, but we'll make sure that you have something you can use. I'm also going to put my name in the chat so that my email in the chat, in case people always have questions specific to cases after this that they're working on. So I'm always happy to be of assistance on that front as well. But yeah, we have loads of documents that can help guide you on the prompt writing itself. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's do this one. Will the program provide page line designations for identified issues? For example, if I'm gathering evidence to draft respond, can this program provide the info and where to find it in the deposition? Dawn, great question. Let's just go into, these are questions that I've already asked. And let's pick this one. Compare what the complaint alleges with what the witnesses actually testified to. What you're seeing here is that exact information, right? So you're asking for page line designations for identified issues. The issues that I identified that I wanted to focus on here were like specific moments of testimony where the evidence that came out through testimony was stronger than the initial pleading. This is the answer, and it's taking me directly to the source information. So let's just pick one. Ashley Hawkins had 0 formal training. Did you go through any formal training on how to escort residents in memory care? So, and she says yes, but the question is, am I correct that you did not go through? So it's just changed the way that it's giving you that information. But there, it's pulling the information directly from the source material. We built it this way so that you could verify very easily where it's getting its answers from. So great question, important question. And then I should also show you, right? Like when I take this information with me and bring it to my document, you're seeing that it's taking, in this case, like all the actual citations with it. So you can actually, you're not losing the citation when you export the information. By the way, we're up to like 30 pages on this document that is going to be like, we've made an actionable trial prep document here. Hopefully that answers your question, Dawn. All right, what else do we have here? Are you able to have, Steven's asking if you can have Transcript Genius identify party-specific breaches of the app. All right, I'm going to take your language, Steven. TG can identify. Great. I'm going to go back. Instead of scrolling all the way to the bottom, I'm just going to start a new interrogation up here. And I'm going to use your exact language. I should have changed it to make it party specific, but I think because I didn't, it's going to give me both sides, or you'll see this is now actually identifying the specific breaches of the applicable standard of care. And obviously I've got the complaint up here as well. So another excellent use case, Stephen. I think it's brilliant. And it's going to churn out that answer. Again, the more context you give it, the better. If you wanted to give it additional context, the better. If there's a case that you got from Westlaw or Lexis that you're sitting there saying this is a key holding from this case about this subject matter, based off this case's holding, now assess the depositions and the testimony against the standard that the court sort of has given us. The more context, the better, absolutely. And you're seeing, again, it's going to be thorough in its answer. Coming up on 10 minutes away from the top of the hour, and I'm going to save a couple minutes for Tara at the end, but I'm going to keep answering these questions. Ben also asked, is this access to this feature firm-wide or attorney-specific from a cost perspective? Okay, great question on the cost front and access. You're seeing up here, this is going to be your personal profile. Okay, your firm will have a profile, then the firm admin is going to control whoever the users are and give them access to their own accounts. There's no subscription for it. There's no you're not per month per user. There's none of that. Everything that I've shown you for the last hour, every single thing that I've shown you will not cost you an extra cent. You get access to this technology because you've booked your depositions through Steno. It's a big differentiator. We really believe in the services that we obviously offer. And then the idea is, here is AI that is going to make all the information that you paid for because you booked the job through Steno. Now you've got this tool that you can use at no additional cost, no restriction on your interrogations. Plus you have access to a really secure platform that you're not paying for additionally. And it's the most recent sort of cutting edge AI. I mean, it's just an absolute win-win. Also, if there are people in your firm that you don't want to be using AI, you'll be able to control that, and there are different permissions around that. But yeah, to answer your question, there's no sort of like, when I use Westlaw, I'm paying whatever per user per month, and then at different account levels if I want access to the case law. None of that is true here. You have access to this because you booked the job through Steno, and you can use it as much or as little as you like. You're seeing the handouts over here. You can download the slide deck and then the checklist that has some of the prompts on it. So feel free to jump in and download those. I'm trying to see. I think I've got a few more questions pop in. So I'm going to keep going. And Tara, I'm going to give you a couple minutes at the top of this so that you can wrap things up. Joshua, will I be able to upload, opposing counsel's motion, summary judgment, et cetera, et cetera? Absolutely. Go for it. I mean, if it handles PDFs, you can see that it handled the complaint here. Upload opposing counsel's like other pleadings, other filings associated with a case. Any text format is the best for AI to engage with. So just like you would with anything, it's going to be able to give you the answer and the information. It's up to you then to cross-check and make sure that the information is accurate. But as you've seen over the course of this entire demo, it's giving answers that reflect the source information. But yeah, go for it, Joshua. Upload that. If you have any questions about that too, or you want a sort of assistance with workshopping some prompts, again, reach out to me and we can do that. Does Transcript Genius integrate directly to case management software the way that the court reporting service does? Transcript Genius is accessible through the firm dashboard. It's not going to be, you're not going to be in Clio, or you're not going to be in whatever you're using and then have access to Transcript Genius. The security of our product, it means that it lives and breathes right here. But you'll see that obviously all your transcripts are there. And if you want to upload anything else, it's obviously an extra step, but upload it, it'll live here. And then you have access to this obviously incredible AI. Is there a limit to the amount? Sorry, I quickly answered that question, Jessica. Is there a limit to the amount and pages of each document you can upload and interrogate at one time, like medical records? Yeah. You can upload as much as you want. There's no sort of limit on that front, but the interrogation limit is an AI limitation, right? I mean, there's no AI out there that's going to allow you to take your entire sort of discovery database and analyze it all at once and be like the amount of accuracy drops significantly. So what we cap ours at right now, or with the testing that we've done, is about 500-600 pages at a time. But it doesn't stop you from having multiple interrogations open. So maybe I've got these 3 on this screen, and then on another screen, I've got another 3, and I could take the answer that it gave me here, and I could copy and paste it and put it in the other interrogation. So there's some nice workarounds there that actually mean that you can get more information and ensure that it's just as accurate. But yeah, the limitation on that is an AI limitation. And then Stephen asked another question. Does TG only work to analyze transcripts and documents, or does it respond to general prompts like ChatGPT? It'll respond to general prompts for sure. It's going to anchor its answer around the transcripts and the documents that you ask it to interrogate. But ask it general questions. I mean, you can ask it more questions about like what it's, it's all going to be case specific. It's going to be it's dedicated to be approaching this from an analytical legal mindset. But you can engage with it absolutely the way that you would engage with ChatGPT or other AI. Sort of speak to it like a human. Okay. Jerry, what prevents one from uploading docs not related to the deposition you use Steno for? I guess it's nothing. I guess you could upload other documents, but again, this is custom built to deploy the power of AI with a whole bunch of background information that we've given it, so that it's going to be thinking of what you're giving it from a legal point of view, and from an attorney point of view, paralegal point of view, someone who's really, engaged somewhere along the life cycle of a case. So that's what it's custom built to do. And I would just think that if you have non-legal reasons to be using AI, that's probably best served by another another product. I think I've answered everyone's questions. And with that, Tara, we're obviously closing in on the end of this session. I guess I'll just pass it right back over to you.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for showing all of these different use cases and things with Transcript Genius. Was a ton of great feedback in the chat, and I know there are a few questions that we didn't get to. I did put Joe's email in the chat for you to reach out to him directly. I will put it in one more time before we go. Don't forget that there are a couple of resources for you in the handouts tab at the top of that chat panel. And I'm also going to pop up a little image for you now that will take you to the page to register for our next webinar, where Joe will also be presenting on 5 powerful AI strategies that winning attorneys actually use. This will get even deeper into some very specific use cases for Transcript Genius, and should, I believe, answer some of the questions that we got today as well. So with that, Joe, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, y'all.